All right, I'm here today with Allentown Mayor Ed Pawlowski, who just announced his re-election campaign for his third term as mayor. You recited a rather long, impressive list of accomplishments. And here's a question I have for you. If Billy Joel were in Allentown today, what would you say to him about the city?
I would say it's a much different city than he experienced over 30 years ago. You know, we're seeing unprecedented development and growth. We're a city that's growing. We were the fastest growing city in the state of Pennsylvania. We are seeing over $1 billion in investment. We're rebuilding our neighborhoods, and those old steel mills that he talks about are now being redeveloped into very productive uses that are spurring jobs and economic activity, not only for Allentown and Bethlehem, but for the entire region. So I would say that he needs to come back and actually look at Allentown and Bethlehem as well, because he originally was making the song about Bethlehem. My understanding is it just didn't rhyme with the song. Allentown was a little more catchy. But I would say that, you know, the song really relates to the entire Lehigh Valley. And I would say that when he comes back, if he comes back, which maybe we can get him back for the new arena, you know, he would see an entirely different valley, a valley that's really prospering, that really took, you know, some really difficult challenges and made them opportunities.
Yeah, of course, Allentown and Bethlehem both were on hard times when Mack trucks went south, when Bethlehem Steel went belly up.
I mean, if you look at
there were a lot of good manufacturing jobs. Yeah, and there were manufacturing jobs with good wages.
And we not only were able to absorb that to the point where, you know, our unemployment rate is fairly low compared to, you know, the state and national level. We've been able to absorb that and grow. And, you know, our region has not only rebounded from those losses, we've not only recovered, we've expanded. So I think it really shows the resiliency of the area and the residents here in Allentown and Bethlehem, and just how well, you know, this area comes together when in tough times to make things happen.
Of course, to really be successful, you need to work on a regional basis, correct?
Yes.
And that means working with your fellow mayors, which you seem to have a good relationship you've had with Mayor Callahan in Bethlehem, with Mayor Panto in Easton, and Mayor Spencer in Reading. Talk kind of how the mayors on the 222 corridor here.
We all share similar problems, all of us. You know, we all face the same issues with crime and jobs and finances and in our neighborhoods, and blight and deterioration, and we, you know, one of the things I learned a long time ago is there's nothing new under the sun. You know, we learn from each other, we build on each other's successes, and we collectively, you know, every time that we do something here to have a positive impact on what happens in Bethlehem, we have to. We're connected at the hip. Every time they do something there, we'll have a positive impact on what happens in Allentown. And vice versa. If this side of the valley does well, you know, it's going to have ripple effects to Easton and to other surrounding communities like Reading, and even the surrounding suburbs.
It's like a balloon that you squeeze.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? I mean, if one of these cities cracks down, they just pop up in the others.
That's right. And so, you know, we are all connected together. If there's, you know, activity happening in Reading, it ultimately will spill over into Allentown and Bethlehem and Easton, and so and Lancaster, New York. And so it really is critical that we work together to really address some of these more, you know, systemic issues of crime, drugs, guns, poverty. These things know no boundaries. And so, you know, working together with these fellow mayors, I think, is critical if we're going to make any sort of, you know, long-term sustainable impact.
This Friday, there's a crime summit being held in Reading with the governor and Senator Casey there. Do you plan on being there?
I was not invited, but I'd love to go. I think it's, you know, it's critical that
you might pick up some ideas you can use here.
No, I just think it's critical that, you know, I remember several years ago, Senator Casey did a study looking at the flow of drugs into the region. It all was emanating sort of a hub and spoke system from Reading, West Texas. What happens in Reading is obviously going to dictate the amount of flow of trade coming into Allentown and Bethlehem and Easton. And so, we knew that, and we knew that years ago, and that's why, under former U.S. Attorney Pat Meehan, we were able to put together the 222 corridor, secure some funding, work jointly together, which I think had a really significant impact on reducing, some of the organized activity that was happening up and down that corridor. I mean, these drug dealers see no boundaries. I mean, we see lines on the map, okay? They don't see those lines. They see opportunities within our neighborhoods. So we want to break down those opportunities, create barriers, and the only way we're going to do that is by working jointly together to really give them no opportunity to set up their shops and operate within any of our communities. So I think that this drug summit is critical. It still is the nexus. It still is the hub. I want to see Reading succeed, because if Reading succeeds and is able to really get a hold of the activity that's happening there, it will have a positive effect on all the surroundings.
You mentioned guns. Of course, you're right there in the nexus of gun problems in a small urban city like this. I'm saying small relative to Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, but you have drug violence here and gun violence here. The Vice President is supposed to give his recommendations to the President tomorrow on federal gun control. What would you like to see done to improve the situation in cities like Allentown?
Myself and other mayors have been saying we need to have a logical, reasonable discussion, in the state and this country about guns. I have seen too many guns flowing into our neighborhoods, too many, deaths of our youth as a result of these weapons. And there is nobody that needs high-capacity clips. There is nobody that needs, automatic and semi-automatic weapons. There's no one that needs body armor. I mean, these things are only designed to kill mass quantities of people. Why any individual citizen, needs that type of weaponry is beyond my comprehension. So I am hoping that there is a real serious discussion about guns and about the amount of guns, the type of guns that are flowing into our streets. I am not against the Second Amendment. I'm all for it. I'd be the first one to be lobbying there with anybody who says they want to take it away. But at the same time, there is no need for these type of high-capacity weaponry whose only goal is to basically, inflict as much damage as possible. I would hope that they would focus on all those issues: the high-capacity clips, the automatic and semi-automatic weapons, the use of body armor, the sale of these type of weaponry within our store. I mean, you can go here, you can go up to the Army-Navy store on MacArthur Road and basically arm a small army with the amount of weaponry. That quite honestly is ludicrous. There is no need for that type of weaponry to exist in the general population. And I would hope that there would be a serious discussion about, the types of weaponry that's out there and what truly, does a Second Amendment mean. Right. It means you have a right to own a gun. I don't disagree with that. But at the same time, there has to be limits.
Just like there are limits on free speech.
Just like there's limits on free speech, just like there's limits, listen, you can drive a car and you have a license to drive a car. That doesn't mean you could drive it recklessly. It doesn't mean that, you could put spikes on your wheels and drive around and chop everybody's tires off. And obviously they're not the same, but you get the gist. I mean, we need to have a serious discussion, and I'm hoping that the Vice President, the President, from my discussions at the White House, seem to be serious about drugs, and I think also there's been a serious debate now and dialogue around mental health, and I would hope that both on the state level and the federal level they would start putting the resources needed into mental health, and instead of continuing to close hospitals and limit opportunities
and cut funding,
that funding would increase, and there would be some true help for these folks.
How about putting mental health on a parity with physical health and health care plans?
That would be tremendous. That would be tremendous, because it's going the opposite direction.
Yes.
It's going the opposite direction.
One last question. If you're reelected, do you expect to serve a full term?
Only time will tell. Only time will tell. That is my goal.
All right.
My goal is to serve the city of Allentown. That's what I'm running for right now.
All right.